Can you help me with something?
Sure. What do you need help with?
What's 10 plus 5?
10 plus 5 equals 15.
Can you multiply another 25?
Yes, if you multiply 15 by 25, the result would be 375.
Thank you for your help today.
You're welcome. Feel free to reach out if you need further assistance in the...
Hello friends. We all know that OpenAI has released its new ChatGPT and Whisper APIs. Today we are going to create an audio chatbot that based on the ChatGPT, which will record our audio and respond in audio. We're going to use a web interface called Gradio with a bit of Python code. Let's get started. First, let's start with the user interface. Gradio is a great way of quickly create a demo app for your machine learning model. So let's just copy this code and paste to the Visual Studio. Let's create a new file, Python. Save it. Chat audio bot. First, we need to install the module. Maybe install Gradio. I've installed this before, so it's much quicker. And I will paste in the code. Let's run it. Once it's run, it will spin up a web interface on your local server. Let's paste it into your browser. Once you hit enter, it loads out the pretty interface. Type a name here, John. Submit. It says hello John. So this is a very basic UI created by Gradio. Basically it takes input and spit out. If we have a look at the code, basically you can see there's a function called greet, and then it returns hello plus the name, which is the user input. So this name is the left box on the UI where you put your type anything in there, and it adds a hello and spins it as output, and that's how you get to see the hello John before. Now our goal is to take the audio input, pass that on to ChatGPT after the Whisper API has transcribed it to text. Once the ChatGPT returns the response in the text, we will convert it back text to speech to the audio file and change the output to audio as well. Back at OpenAI documentation, let's have a look at the new Whisper API, speech to text. Okay, so just copy this example and paste it back to. Let's copy and paste here. Okay. So first thing first, we need to import OpenAI. No, actually, we need to install the OpenAI module. So let's set a server and go pip install OpenAI. we're going to import a module which is in the code. So this is our Whisper API. Back at our Gradio documentation, let's click on the docs and audio, because now we want to change the input from the text to the microphone input as audio. So we need to change the interface, and it will look like that: GR.audio source microphone. Here we go. In Visual Studio, so let's find our demo, and the inputs now is different. It's going to be called Gradio source microphone type file path. And let's actually, I don't want to call this demo, let's call it bot name to be differentiated with the example. And I want to also change the function. We don't want to call greet, let's call it transcribe. So we'll make a new function called transcribe, and instead of name it's going to be audio. And then what we're going to return, we're not going to return that. So right before the app runs, we're going to return the response from the Whisper API, which is the transcription. Right, so here we also need to change to our audio. So that's the audio. That's that, and change to our transcript. So the return is going to be transcript text. Okay, let's run this. We got error. Audio. Actually, I don't think we need double quote. Just return in audio. Expected indented. Okay, line 4. Or I think the function need to be right. Function need to be the front, and these will be indented. Alright, let's do that. Okay. So blah blah blah. Let's run it again. Okay, it has run, and it says you can go to this URL. So let's read. We got error here because I forgot to add my API key for the OpenAI. So I already had it in my config file. So I'm going to import config and OpenAI API key equal to my config file, and I had same thing there, OpenAI API key. All right, let's run it again. Maybe I close this first and then run it. Here we go. Let's just change to the website. So let's run this again. I decided to keep this split window so we can see it clearly. Okay, let's enter and record. This is my testing with the Whisper API. And then go submit. See whether it will print that. This is my testing with Whisper API. Here we go. Just like that, we have turned the Gradio web interface from text input to the audio, and we asked to print out the transcript to the output. Now, if you wonder how I get this out of the API response from Whisper, it is from here. The API response from Whisper is transcript, and it looks like that is the JSON array, and we need to take the text part out of the JSON array, and this is how we get to this. Next, let's look at the new ChatGPT API. So let's click on this chat completion. So the new ChatGPT is powered by the GPT 3.5 Turbo. The previous one I used in my other video was called text completion. So this is the older model. The new model is the ChatGPT API, and is also cheap as well. Now let's have a look at the example. So it has different format now. In the past, with the text completion, you just pass a message to the API. Now you have a couple of different roles. So the first role says you are a beautiful assistant, basically just telling, think about a role play, is telling the ChatGPT the personality. Second role is user, which means this is pass your questions to the ChatGPT. The assistant means the ChatGPT returning the response. So who won the World Series in 2020? The Los Angeles Dodgers, blah, blah, blah. And then the fourth role is a follow-up question from the user again. Where were they played? So the ChatGPT will understand the context if we follow in this format. Okay, so let's copy this code into our Visual Studio. So what we're gonna do is, once the Whisper API has responded with its transcript, this needs to be fed back to the ChatGPT API. Let's call make chat GPT API, and let's pop the code here. We've already imported OpenAI, so we don't need to do that. Give it a bit of indent. So actually, I don't want to do the follow-up question yet. I'll explain that later. So let's just put a comment them out for now. So we will just be passing the message and get a response. I think I have some indent problem. I keep having this problem in Visual Studio. Let's fix that first. Oh, that's maybe too much. Okay, so different function now, so that's fine. Do that. Okay. So to make this work, we need to feed the return of the Whisper API response from Whisper to ChatGPT as this content. Okay, so we do that. Put in here. And role, let's call it, you are a brutal boss. Okay. Right. Now, if we have a look at the response from ChatGPT, when it comes back, response format, it's a JSON file under the choices. You can see that. And we just need the content. Okay, in here. In Python, the system can be replied to response. Okay, so let's copy this. And here we want to actually create, we should call the response. We make it look pretty. that. And then we will make another variable called system message equal to response.choice content. So from here, let's return the response. Let's fix this quotation problem first. We double quote, that's better. Message, double quote, content, double quote. Okay. That's the response. We don't want to return the response actually, no. So this is the response from ChatGPT API. And to extract the content out, we create this system message variable. And now let's, instead of for our interface to output the whisper return, we're gonna output the text again, but this time we're gonna return the response from ChatGPT. So let's comment this one out. This is gonna return Whisper API response. So let's do another return here, and we're gonna return the system message. Yeah. Okay, let's run it, see what happens. I'm gonna close server first. We run it. Perhaps I forgot a comma. Yeah. Okay, I have fixed the quotation here. There's no quotation needed because we're already passing a variable. And also I've fixed up the dent. It looks much better, the indent. So let's run it. Start again and run this. Okay, we'll refresh this and do our recording. I am doing so much work today. Can I take a break? Okay, remember this is a brutal boss we are talking to. So let's submit that. And then we are returning the system message, which is the response from ChatGPT API. Okay. Of course, I apologize if I come across as a brutal boss. It's important to take breaks throughout the workday, internally maintain productivity, and avoid burnout. Please take a break whenever you need one. I apologize if I came across as a brutal boss. Okay, it's very nice. Actually, it's not very brutal. Okay, next, let's make sure the ChatGPT will remember our chat history by using these follow-up questions in a row. Now first, because we commented out, let's demonstrate it is not working at the moment. So maybe we change the role a little bit to say you are a smart professor. Okay, so let's reset the server, run it. And so here, I record. Do you know how to do 6 plus 10? Submit that. Okay, let's see. Of course, 6 plus 10 is equal to 16. Okay, clear this. What about times another 10? So that should be 160. Let's see. Okay, and it says, thank you for the compliment. At AI model, I don't have feelings or emotions. Regarding times another 10, I'm not aware what you're referring to. Okay, so that shows the ChatGPT does not have the context of our last conversation, the last chat histories. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to create a new variable, let's call it conversation, and it will hold all our chat histories. But first we want to initialize it with just the system role. So let's copy that. Okay. So the conversation is equal to, we're going to initialize it with our system role only. Okay. Rid of the comma too. Okay. For this new variable, the global variable will start with system role. You are a smart professor. And then we're going to keep append the user's questions and response from ChatGPT and the user's follow-up questions and response again to build up a conversation history. So right after this Whisper API, which is our first question, we're going to append the response to the conversation. So let's say conversation equal to, and that will be the user. Okay, let's just copy this. It's going to be the user. But it's going to be the user. So we are feeding this to the ChatGPT, and then this we can get rid of. Actually, we can get rid of that. We want a message is same as a conversation. Okay. And then after ChatGPT responded back as system message, we want to update this variable again, and this time we use another role. Actually, we should use .append. Sorry about that. And this one will .append again, but instead of user content, this one will be the assistant. So the role this time is assistant, which is the response from ChatGPT, and the content is the system message. Excuse me, I got this append command wrong, so it's not equal. Just bracket. Get rid of this square brackets, and then there will be close bracket here. So this one is gonna be and bracket. Get rid of this square bracket. And that one. I think that's it. Oh, here I'm missing a close bracket here, so just do that. All right. And let's run it. I'll close this first. And one more time. Okay, so it looks like it launched no problem. Let's test it again, see whether this time has remembered our chat history. Can you tell me what's 6 plus 10? Setting to ChatGPT 16. Let's do that again. What about times another 10? If you mean 6 plus 10 times 10, then the answer will be, wow. That's not correct, isn't it? If you mean 6 plus 10 times 10. Okay, let's try it again. It seems like I remember something. Can you tell me what's 4 by 6? 24. Okay. Multiply another 10 to 40. Yeah, looks like it's remembering it. 240. What about add another 50? That'll be 290. Okay. Looks like it not only remembered everything, it also listed out. Try one more thing. Who is Joe Biden? Okay. Joe Biden is American president. Okay. Right, and let's ask a follow-up question. Who is his best friend? And we submit that. I do not have imagined Joe Biden's personal life and friend cycle. However, Boris has been blah blah blah. Okay, definitely remember our chat histories. So that's it. That's how you can make the ChatGPT remember the chat history via the API call. So just to recap what we did here to help the ChatGPT remember our chat history. First, we create a global variable called conversation, which we initialized with the first row by telling ChatGPT the role play. And then after the Whisper API has transcribed our audio input, we appended the result transcript.txt to the conversation API. So now this conversation has the original first row and the second row, which is user input. After we feed the user input to the ChatGPT, because now we do messages equal to conversation, ChatGPT has returned its response in the system messages. And then we append system messages again to the conversation variable. So now conversation variable will have the original row, the user input, and the follow-up, the response from ChatGPT and follow-up questions, and it just goes in circles. And I just want to point out, in the return, we are still returning the system message, which is just the last response from ChatGPT. We did not want to return the whole conversation, which will include all the chat histories. So the output from Gradio is just the last response. Okay, friends, we are very close. All we need to do is to turn this output system message back to audio. For that, we turn to ChatGPT and ask, how can I turn text into speech in my Python code? My text output from previous lines is in a variable called system message. Let's see what it says. Right. One popular TTS library is called pyttr. Okay, so you're just gonna install that. Right. So that is just initializing. Can you engine say is doing the say engine. So do we want to do that? Because we're gonna return the audio. We don't want to say it out. So can you get the engine to convert the system message into audio file MP3 and return that? And then we'll just change this output, right? Because we already have the output text. We just change this to audio and we just need to return that. So okay, we just got this nice code that hopefully will work. Unfortunately, this time the ChatGPT did not give me the code I want, but this is a code that works, and that is from ChatGPT when I used it for the first time. I guess I was just lucky. I did not write any of this code. So all I did here is to replace this input to our system message, and it will output to a file called response.mp3, and I will be returning this. And I also change the interface in output to audio. So let's just comment this one out. I'm not gonna return that anymore. We're gonna return response.mp3. Okay, and also you need to run the pip install of this module we already import here. You need to install it if you have not used it before. And I already installed that before, so let's run it. See whether it works. So we expect it will play back the ChatGPT response in audio. Oh, so look at that's run. Enter here. Okay, see this icon become audio because I have changed the outputs here. What is 10 plus 6? I don't really give hard math question to ChatGPT, do I? Here we go, that's our first.
The answer is 16.
Okay. Can you multiply that with another 1000? It's hard enough.
Yes, 16 multiplied by 1000 is 16,000.
Great. Okay, friends, so this is how you build a ChatGPT bot using audio input and audio output. Now, as you can hear, the voice of this library is a bit robotic. So on my next video, we will be updating this bit with Google's text-to-speech API, which is supposedly better, and I have not used that in the past. So let's see